All right, click the links to join us. I speak in the royal we over at Subscribestar, and you get all the behind-the-scenes stuff, or Odyssey, Bit Chute, Telegram. So this kind of sums it up pretty well. Like, there's a lot of people who are jumping on board to support something because people want to support whoever is the focus, whoever's the tip of the spear in resisting these degenerate SJWs who are ruining everything you enjoy, anything you enjoy, even if it could be a small gaming club. And if once it gets beyond a certain size and they see that, oh, we need to immediately subvert and corrupt this. Why? Oh, because it's just a group of people having fun, but they need to be controlled by us. So they sneak their way, they worm their way in there like termites, and then they just start destroying the structure until you realize they've changed it so much it's no longer enjoyable. So you go off and start something new, and guess where those vermin, they just follow you along wherever you go. You got to gatekeep SJWs away. Anyway. So there's some fan art here. Ripaverse is blowing up because people are seeing, well, somebody's taking a stand against SJWs, and that's not an easy thing to do. Like, yeah, he's getting his remuneration for it, but it's a stressful thing to be in the crucible and be tested by these SJWs. Because it's a constant, it's like Ghostbusters Part 2. It's a constant wave of soy boy and cat lady hatred. And this passive aggressive backstabbing and just this whining. And what it is a lot is from crabs in a bucket. People who, like, they don't know why they're angry. And why do you hate Trump? Because the media told me to hate Trump. Oh, the same media that's on the Epstein Island flight logs? Yeah, wait, are you saying the media is dishonest? That's something to consider. It's a possibility. I mean, just throwing it out there. Anyway, so Erik July versus the crabs in a bucket. He's an important part of this timeline for the Comicsgate and for the pop culture civil war. So what happened? Erik July made a comic book, and you think, oh, hey, good for him. I guess I'm either interested in it, and I'll buy it or buy a T-shirt or something, or I'll just move on with my life. It's not for me. If I'm, you're SGW, look for this. Oh, it's this guy with his taxation, his theft hat. He's probably to the right of not only the bell curve, but the political bell curve as well. If I'm a left-wing SGW, yeah, I see that. It's like, probably not for me. I'll just move on with my life and maybe go for a little walk. That's not how SJWs think. They immediately think, oh, I need to be as passive-aggressive and annoying as possible for some reason to get Twitter dopamine. Like, well, this guy's making, like, the YouTube community is monetizing it. If you're on Twitter and you're just being a little whiny bitch, so you're spending your time to go off on this guy, but, I mean, like, is that time well spent? I mean, couldn't you be doing almost anything else with your time? If you need a book, I'll send you a book. I have a Lord of the Rings that I picked up. That it's all 3 books in one, which makes it a kind of a big, heavy book. But, like, really, if you're so bored, you could do anything else would be a better use of your time. Anyway, so he makes a comic book, which doesn't seem like he's raising the the pirate flag and he's going to take over the ship or something. It's like he's just a guy selling a comic book on YouTube. It doesn't really seem like he deserves to get the hatred that he's getting. And if you don't want to give him the accolades either, hey, that's fine too. But, like, most normal people just go look at it, just goes, oh yeah, this is interesting. I want to find out more about this, or it's not interesting. You just move on. And that's, SJWs aren't normal people, not by a long shot. So he's making a comic book, but the important but is that he's not a left-wing puppet, and he's not on board with the woke race swap comics and all the other stuff that comes with the mainstream SJW comics. One of the reasons is the same thing, I think, that I mentioned before, and I don't want to straw man him. I'm gathering this from data. It's not a compliment for non-Europeans to be globalist pawns in the Marxist humiliation ritual of a conquered people. Amazon and Discovery are just using them as Waldos. They're not going to tell organic, authentic African, Arab, Latin American stories or whatever. They tell these swapped stories that are just this amalgam, this garbage matrix of just nothingness. It's just Hollywood. It's not telling anyone's organic stories. You look at these stories, it goes, oh wait, this is just because you hate one group of people, not because you like the other group of people. They don't like non-Europeans. They just hate Europeans. And once you kind of look at this stuff and study it, you realize, oh, they hate everyone, but they're using one group to foment discord against another group, because They're very bad people. Anyway, so it's not like the actors who are getting paid and the people who are, in Hollywood or on comic books. It's like they're useful idiots at the bottom. They're just getting paid. It's like they're not really thinking about what's going on, and you can't hate them for that exactly. But imagine telling a story without Europeans in it. A South American tribe who's doing battle with another South American tribe, or intra-African wars. There's a whole story universe. Especially, I like Africa for this storytelling universe because there's a lot of really impressive animals. If you want to set a story like 1,000 years ago, I mean, there's a lot you could do with elephant gods and crocodile men and versus the monkey men and tribal rituals. There's a lot of fun you could have as long as you're just willing to just have fun with it and tell these stories. But you're not going to see, you don't see that. In fact, you don't see that because it doesn't carry out the narrative they're trying to push. These stories don't get told. And I think Mel Gibson made one movie that's set in South America. I don't remember the name of it, but that's that kind of story is actually pretty rare. And it's funny that Mel Gibson made it, who's known as being somewhat of a right-wing shitlord in Hollywood. The funny thing is when these passive-aggressive tweets come out and they just say the stupidest stuff that has no basis in reality, and then you start getting into it with them, and then the tweets are deleted and their accounts are locked down. It's like you made a statement and somebody pretty reasonably and politely disagreed with you, and these people are trapped in this crabs in a bucket thing. So Hollywood's only purpose is to spread anti-European or anti-nationalist or misandrist, globalist, or sometimes anti-Christian, but the focus is really on the ethnic hatred that they have. It's globalist propaganda. Like, it's not just me, tinfoil hat, rabbit hole, matrix, they live stuff. It's like by now, most people I think of kind of are, even moderates are slowly kind of coming around. Especially on Gap, people are getting so even on Twitter, like people are getting really, really based. They're putting on those they live glasses, and that's a good movie to watch along with. Though maybe on Odyssey has a lot of streams. Anyway, Mel Gibson aside, Saint Mel Gibson aside, peace be upon him. Most of Hollywood is degenerate Marxist filth, like Weinstein, who they applauded for years and years because he was putting money in their pocket. But anyway, race swapping characters is not a win for POCs, which some of these useful idiots seem to think it is. It's just Hollywood and comics saying that your stories don't matter because it doesn't serve the globalist narrative. And it's funny because there are more people on the right or the far right who are saying, yeah, your stories do matter. They do deserve to be told. Why aren't you telling these authentic stories? Like, oh, you're just mad about the race swapping. I don't really care about Hollywood or comics anymore. I care about the culture war a little bit and the greater other conflict. But like, this is a legitimate point to be made that you look at Hollywood and it seems like, oh, you guys aren't telling some authentic story. Even if you make a story set in China, you'll put like an Englishman in there to be the bad guy, and you start looking at these connections and go, oh, this is really weird. Like, you really can't tell a story without Europeans in there to be a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy to be the antagonist. They literally won't tell a Central American Aztec story if it's not set recently. It's like they won't set it 1,000 years ago and just tell a story set in that universe because it doesn't push the narrative, the hatred that they need to push. So the useful idiots on Twitter are attacking July because he doesn't support race-swapping characters. They don't understand he's not pro-Europa Hugo Boss type. He's more pro-African Hugo Boss type. I'm sure the African dictators probably also were Hugo Boss. Very fashionable. He's pro his tribe, and from what I gather, and doesn't want to see his tribe settle for other people's stories where they should be telling, for him, purely African stories, or for other groups, purely Latin American stories or Arab or Chinese or whatever stories, like authentic stories that just have those people in that. It's like you start to notice this and go, oh, that is missing. It's really weird that they don't do that. No, it's not really weird because they're doing this for a narrative. This isn't negligence or recklessness. This is intent. But these Twitter idiots don't think 2 steps ahead. It's just stimulus response, like Pavlov's dog. Twitter idiots are willing to settle for other people's story. July decided to create his own stories, which should be the more common position. Comics and movies and TV shows and streaming stuff is so effing bad right now that you whoever's listening to this, write your own story, write your own story, write your own skit, write your own character, start creating something. It's a better use of your time than watching anything on TV right now. So Saint Richard Meyer gave birth to a new movement a few years ago when the sheep didn't have to accept the insane propaganda in mainstream cat lady and soy boy comics. They could simply write their own. Soy comics written by fruitcakes are not worth $4. They're not worth anything. They're not worth going online and reading them for free. They're just not worth anything. People are willing to spend $40 to support people who don't insult them and to support small businesses that are not run by patronizing a-holes. Comicsgate and Rippaverse is a rejection of all that, and that was enough to get labeled a fashionable German and Hugo Boss. This is welcome to the ethno state, Erik July. Erik is the next. I mean, like, I know, like, to refute their argument, these people are so insane. They look at people and they'll look at people who obviously don't fit the mold, and they'll use this nomenclature on them, and you look at them and like, are you just a crazy person, right? Like, you're absolutely insane. No, you guys actually hate each other. But we're all these, like, these far right groups that are the ones you label far right. You look at them and like, we have people from all over, all mixed together, and you look at these far left groups, and I see one homogenous group of people. What's going? Oh, well, those POCs and the far right groups are actually just your pawns. They're saying they don't have agency to decide who they want to be around and who they want to hang out with. It's really what they believe. I mean, they will accuse you of, like, someone like this guy of being a neo-German. Either he has agency and he's a neo-German and Hugo Boss, or he doesn't have agency and he's just a useful idiot puppet of some right-wing group who's secretly controlling him. The Blaze, Fox Media, something like that. You know? Well, I mean, you listen to his videos, you read his writings, you know he's not an idiot. I'm not saying he's a genius, but, like, he's not an idiot. Why would you say that he's controlled by other people? You know how patronizing and insulting that is to say that about people? Yeah, it's the soft bigotry of lowered expectations. And I mean, there's a lot more I can say on the left, but it involves a lot of, it's very difficult to say on YouTube. When we say, like, they're the real istophobics the whole time, yeah, we really mean that. We really, really mean that. They want to keep people in their place. And once you get uppity, it's the left wing who is telling you, you need to, boy, get back in your place. That's all coming from these kind-hearted liberals who, they're not kind-hearted. They're like vampires who can pass as humans. Anyway, so July is the next big phase for Comicsgate, and hopefully is the fresh blood infusion and energy that Comicsgate kind of needed. Comicsgate was getting a little stagnant and insulated. It was kind of trapped in a corner of YouTube and Twitter. So July's got a different and a much larger audience. I don't know if he uses the name Comicsgate, but if it's the same thing, all but name, it doesn't really matter. He's selling indie comics. He's not an SJW. Well, that's the definition of Comicsgate right now. He doesn't have to use the name. And hopefully there's going to be some spillover between CG and his crowd. Someone said I got the quote wrong last time. Something about the rising tide lifts all boats. Now I realize I don't really know the correct quote. Something about that. When the water goes up, all boats go up too. How did I get that wrong? Rising tide? What it? I should have looked that up now. So I'm sure if he listens again, he'll let me know what it is. But that is true. I mean, once you bring eyeballs to indie comics, well, the Comicsgate is like kind of. I'm not saying it gave birth to Rippaverse, but it created the background matrix that allowed him to flourish. Like, would he have done it on his own? Yeah, probably. He was probably planning on doing it on his own anyway. But you got to admit, the Comicsgate really set the stage for a lot of this kind of stuff. Like, once you see other people do stuff, anything, it puts it in your mind that, oh, maybe I can do that too. I see these. You go out hiking, and you look at the top of the hill, and you see, like, you know, a couple of 70-year-olds who are hiking up the top of the hill, and then you look at yourself and you're 30 and you realize, oh, I can probably do that too. In fact, I probably need to try a little harder. You get where I'm going. It's like somebody makes a path before you, and it makes it easier. Comicsgate made that path, and Erik is also making a much bigger path. and other people are going to follow along because he's setting the stage. He's saying, like, listen, it's okay to not be an SJW. It's okay to look at globalist propaganda and say, call it what it is. It's just the same Saul Alinsky, Frankfurt School, Moses Mordecai Levy, Karl Marx, Bolshevik, communist, social, all that kind of same stuff. It's all out of the school of Bolshevism from 100 years ago. So you can reject it, and it doesn't make you istophobic. It means you're just rejecting Bolshevik propaganda, or call it SJW, call it whatever you want. But, like, you know what I'm talking about. You don't have to accept their brainwashing. You can call it brainwashing because that's what it is. It's like Bolsheviks make Scientologists look like friggin' amateurs. And, I mean, it's easy to do when you have almost complete, well, you have complete control of the mainstream media. But, I mean, like, we're doing stuff now because we have alt media and we have alt financial institutions and ways to move money around. Oh, speaking of which, you can join me over on Subscribestar. I started to put videos over there, and you get the behind-the-scenes stuff for YouTube, all the stuff that goes along with that. It's $2 a month, so check me out over there. Or Odyssey, Bit Chute, Gap, Telegram. Those are all perfectly free. And I will see you guys all next episode.